These flashcards have not moved in months. And honestly, it's funny because since I stopped using them, I've been learning new words at a faster rate than ever before. Like many people, I believe that using flashcards was the go-to method to learning a language. I believe that they were effective and that was how people became fluent. But that was what I used to think. Until now. Here's why I no longer recommend using flashcards to learn a language. First of all, flashcards are not an efficient way to learn. The time it takes to create them, study them, and then memorize the information often outweighs the benefit. I used to spend hours making stacks of flashcards and then even more time trying to memorize them. But after all that work, what was the result? A whole bunch of random, unorganized words that I would eventually forget because I only used them a couple of times a month. It's just not worth it. Secondly, the words that you do learn are outside of any context. So when I did memorize the words, they would not be within the context of the language. So either I wouldn't know how to apply the word to the given situation, or I would apply the word to the given situation, but in the wrong way. This negative effect is exacerbated by the fact that you may not have a native there to correct you. And you may even ingrain this into your way of thinking without even realizing that you've committed any sort of error. For example, take the English verb to run. With flashcards, I might only memorize the basic meaning, to physically run, but miss all of the other ways the word can be used, like running a business or running errands. If you're learning English, flashcards won't cue you into these subtleties, and that's a problem learning any language. Flashcards also encourage you to think of your target language through the lens of your native language. I completely fell into this trap when I was learning Portuguese. I would just memorize words and substitute them one for one into sentences. But languages don't work like that. Each has its own unique grammar, idioms, and cultural context that flashcards don't teach you. If you're only focused on memorizing individual words, you'll miss the bigger picture, how the language actually works and what it's really communicating. Lastly, if you use flashcards to memorize words, it's really easy to get caught up in the trap of looking at your target language through the lens of your native language. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you were to look at your target language through the lens of your native language, it would be really easy to learn your target language, as all you have to do is memorize each word and substitute it in when you speak or listen. I 100% fell for this when I was learning Portuguese. And now you may be wondering, if I don't have flashcards, how am I supposed to learn new words? Through literature. This semester, I scheduled out an hour per week per language to practice my reading. Reading makes for such a powerful memorization tool because it allows you to see words in context and naturally reinforces what you've already learned. The more frequently you see a word, the more exposure you'll get to it, and the easier time you'll have recalling it. Reading is especially helpful because it prioritizing recalling common words over uncommon words, which makes it easier to become an independent learner faster. But that doesn't mean I see reading as the perfect tool. It is really hard, especially when you first begin to read. Your senses are completely bombarded with new information, which can make it incredibly intimidating and frustrating. Further, there are some very unique situations in which I think flashcards can be useful. Memorizing letters or characters of a new script, numbers, days of the week, months, and if you're a beginner, everyday words that don't change depending on the context, like the word because, why, so, how, to want, to need, to like, to hate, you know, words like that. So with all that in mind, this is the main takeaway for this video. Prioritize reading over memorizing flashcards. Only in very unique circumstances or when you're just beginning to learn a language do I think that it's worth it to use flashcards as opposed to reading. I hope you guys found this useful, and until next time, ciao.